So before passing it to Aura and Don, I'll just read a brief bio. So Aura Wand empowers communities to collaborate, innovate, and drive cultural change, turning ideas into action for a sustainable future through collective imagination and meaningful solutions. And Don Hall is an activist and leadership trainer with 15 years experience serving the transition movement at local, state, national, and international levels. Don is also the author of the Regeneration Handbook, and I'll share a link to that in the chat, which is a beautiful, beautiful book. So if you haven't heard about it or checked it out, I highly recommend giving it a look. So without further ado, Don and Aura, welcome.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Dan, Transition Network, the rest of the practicing transition team. Yeah, I'm really grateful to be here today with Aura One, the creator of the Great Gathering and Goal 2050.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Don, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. We really hope you'll enjoy.
Before I'm going to be your guide for most of this presentation, and Aura is the creator of Goal 2050 and the Great Gathering, and she's going to help run the protocol
Yes.
here. So I'd like to ask Aura you to boot up the protocol and get us started.
Thank you, Don. So please, everybody, get ready. You're going to enter the new gathering in an instant. So, okay, we're going to just give it some time to load. It's a pretty heavy mechanisms. Okay. Hello. Hi, Kins. So we are not going to also have some kind of a traveling. So please really stand ready and welcome to the Great Gathering. So you are now joining the 748th regenerative session. We've been running it for a while now and everything goes well, Don. Yeah, no casualty usually. Goes fine.
Some minor injuries, but that's it.
Yeah, we don't talk about them. So okay. Now is going to be a little checkup about the situation and why you are here and what is your mission going to be today. Please, Don, can you introduce this? Babe.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I think we're all here today, at least in part, because we know our human trajectory is currently critical. Due to the widespread burning of fossil fuels and environmental destruction on a scale unseen before in human history, we're already in the midst of a sixth mass extinction. Global warming has already crossed the 1.5-degree threshold, and major conflicts are erupting all over the world. As a result, our collective entity that we all depend upon has been degraded, and all life is at risk. So social transformation is desperately needed to reverse these trends. But nothing anybody has done has been enough yet. Fortunately, we received recently a cryptic transmission from an unknown source and decrypted it, revealing keys to unlock regenerative futures. And the entire transmission was actually incredibly complex, but here we have it displayed in its simplest, kind of most elemental form, which is a map of a journey starting now in 2025 through a great unraveling to an eventual tipping point and the reweaving of the web of life. So we see this new discovery as a game changer. It is currently shaking up the odds of humanity actually bringing about such a transformation. So that's why we're here today, to press on to see what we can do to regenerate our collective entity, the earth and all its people.
Thank you, Don. So now that everybody is briefed on the mission, now the protocol is ready to be launched. So initialization. And here I'm going to present to you the few steps we are going to take all together today. And you will be with all of your kins that you've been previously introduced to. And the first layer we start is the one that we live through now, and is the one we will still be for the few years to come. So it is the one of separation. Everybody knows about this one right now. It is the third layer. And the idea, our goal today is to go from decade to decade. So in the next decade, we will come into connection all together. We will feel a bit more united, a bit more together for the time to come until we reach the tipping point, which will lead us indeed to the reunion when we will finally be more likely to more together as kins. This is right before 2050 arrives, and 2050 is our goal to the layer 0, where we are finally united all together and then able to regenerate our social entity, our environment, and just live in a fair and durable. Oh, please, Don, you know I have these holes, but sustainable society.
Sustainable. Yep.
So that is our goal today, to reach unity and regenerate our social entity. So please get ready. The dream session is launching. And now, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
So if you would, please close your eyes and take a deep breath. We're going to start our journey together from this year, 2025, to 2050. And I'm going to walk you through a guided visualization, moving from this year into the future. So just take a moment to breathe and let go of any preoccupations you might have. Really let that all go for a few minutes and just be present here with this journey we're about to make. So you can imagine that you're waking up in a great gray city, maybe like some of the cities that we live in now. And it's choked with pollution, traffic, the sound of honking cars and people arguing in the streets. The whole atmosphere seems heavy with oppression, and fear, injustice, and anger. And we don't know why, but we feel something out in the distance, something unseen, calling to us. So we begin to walk towards that through these streets. And after a while, you come to the edge of the city and you look out on a landscape that's barren and desolate and charred by fires. But there's a small footpath that you see that's leading out through all this destruction. And you decide to take it. And you walk through this landscape for quite a while, but it gradually starts to change. You start to see some grasses and wildflowers poking out through the desiccated earth. And soon those, few grasses and flowers start to give way to more lush landscape, some shrubs and trees, and even eventually a forest that's rustling and buzzing with life. And as you're walking through this forest, breathing in the cool, damp air, very different than the hot, polluted air of the city, or even um, the stale air of the desolate landscape. You see a small town up ahead, and you decide to walk towards it. And as you approach, you see others starting to arrive, coming from all directions. And you see that they're being greeted warmly by the town's inhabitants, those who have already arrived. And so you walk up to the town, not knowing exactly what you'll find, maybe a little nervousness. But when you get there, you are also embraced, welcomed, and given food and drink. And you wander around the town and look, and you see gardens everywhere, children running through the streets, and naturally built houses with little tiny solar arrays, bustling main street. People are deeply engaged in conversation and laughter, playing music together and working on all kinds of different projects. And you just drinking in the sight of that um, after this long, arduous journey. And after a while, you and the rest of the newcomers are invited by your hosts to come and sit with them on the grass in a little park in the center of town and tell them about your journeys. And I'm right there with you, one of the newcomers as well. And they asked me first to tell them about the beginning of my journey. And I responded that I remember when everything was unraveling. It was hard to believe that we would ever make it here to a truly just and regenerative future. But time and time again, even in those kind of dark and dispiriting times, I reminded myself that history is unpredictable, and many revolutions seemed impossible to most people until they happened. So that kept me going through even the most challenging times. And then I turned to my friend and said, what do you, Kenora, remember about that time of the great unraveling?
Well, the great unraveling, I remember when things started to unravel in a way that was somehow expected, and yet we were just nowhere near ready for it. It felt like losing the ground, and what I mostly felt is the separation with others, with all that was happening around us, all the adversity and the challenges to come. I guess I hoped we would come together, but no, it was more and more war and fights and opposition. And I really think I prayed and I hoped and I tried to just keep on believing we would get better, but it felt impossible by the time. And yeah, I remember that feeling of helplessness. So yeah, I remember this.
Well, thank you for sharing your recollection. And now we're going to invite you all to open your eyes and take another deep breath. And we're going to invite you to go back into your breakouts and take a few minutes each to share your recollections of the time of the great unraveling. What was that like?
And here is the protocol reminder for you all. So you will all speak the sentence first. I remember when it was all unraveling, and then you can give your whole memory about that time. And when you're finished, just like Don did with me, you say, and you, and for example, I would say, Kin Mary, and you, Kin Mary, what do you remember of the unraveling? And Mary would go, I remember when it was all no, 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 and so on, and you all give to each other and so on. Is everybody ready? Is it all clear for everyone, or is there any question about the protocol?
So as we know, these times of quite challenging, but we're getting ready to start to move beyond them, to start to see the regenerative revolution coming into focus. And so after we all talked about this time of the great unraveling, our hosts had a question about the time that came after that, between 2030 and 2040, when we started to really reconnect as people and things started to change for the better. And I'll invite you to close your eyes again and take a moment to center yourself. Take a deep breath. And yeah, when I was asked about this time, I said that I remember when things started to change. I began to notice that regenerative strategies and solutions were being discussed much more widely and much more seriously than ever before. People had had it with all the destruction, with all the chaos, and they started, clearly yearning for a different way. I noticed that ordinary people were talking about these things in coffee shops, at dinner tables, houses of worship. And there started to be a lot more coverage about regenerative movements in the mainstream media. Suddenly everybody knew what we were talking about and became much more interested. And eventually even politicians were being asked about their plans for a great turning on debate stages. So those were some of the signs that I saw that things were starting to change. What do you, Kenora, remember about that time when things started to change?
Well, I remember that everything was actually like we were really reaching the bottom, and slowly and slowly, but in a way that was just so clear and so vivid. I remember seeing the first obvious signs of actual togetherness, that the first signs that we would actually start to have more moments together out of the system we all used to be so entitled to, like so um, we were unchained to some way of functioning, and everybody was more released. That's when things started to change. That's when I noticed it's when freedom of choice was really something, and you would do what you feel is right, and we would feel it, see it in the streets. Behaviors would change, and there would be more rooted, benevolent. I mean, it was really just like meeting new humans every day. It was very, very strange and new, but so refreshing. Yeah, for me, that was when I noticed things started to change somewhere around 2030 and so on. And you, next kin, what do you remember of that time?
Yeah. So what do you can remember of that time? I invite you to open your eyes. Um, and we're going to go into another round of breakouts around this question. I remember when things started to change, and you can, what do you remember of that?
Yeah. And as you go, because you all saw me going to the rooms, just listening a bit, seeing how you were going, do feel that to go on like, and you, what do you remember of that time? And you can go a bit into really role play and really picture this future that you had, and really go like, yeah, I remember, and I felt this, and maybe there were even flowers on some specific event. So yeah, and do you do pass on with that question of what do you remember, and starting with I remember the, and so on. Please enjoy.
And yeah, we're going to continue to move through this journey from reconnection to reunion and the time of the tipping point. So you can take a moment to close your eyes again and recenter there on the grass in the middle of town, where we have reunited with our kin in the just and regenerative future. And yeah, our hosts maybe most wanted to know about this time of the great turning, of the tipping point. And so they asked us, what do we remember of those times? And what I remember about the time of the tipping point was that it was almost unbelievable. After working on these things for so long and not having, made a lot of progress, not being recognized by mainstream society, that suddenly, these ideas were everywhere. Gardens and farms and uh, um, yeah, local food systems were just blossoming all over the place. Worker-owned cooperatives and local social enterprises were replacing uh, big multinational corporations that were starting to go out of business left and right, as their business model proved ultimately unsustainable. Yeah, there were many fewer cars on the road. Investment into public transportation systems surged, and funding, attention, and support for these movements that we were a part of reached unprecedented levels, enabling the transformation of whole communities and entire systems in just a few short years. We could hardly believe it, but there was just a kind of buzz in the air everywhere that you went, and a massive resurgence of optimism among people. We weren't getting caught up in all the culture war issues of the past, but we were becoming united behind a new paradigm. So, what do you remember about that time of the tipping point, Kinora?
Yeah, thank you, Kindon. Yeah, I remember that too. And what I remember about the tipping point, well, I think it was my sister. Like she came once at my plate. I think it was something like 2046, or I don't know. It was like she actually just came and were actually telling me how I changed things. Like she had discovered this new way of making her hot water not from electricity but from the sun, and she had all every week. I think it became like a new habit of her to come and to almost teach me how to do this. And I'd been transitioning for so many decades now that I was very surprised, but I welcomed it. And it was like the normal thing. Everyone was now actually just inspired and ambitious into that idea of regenerating environment. And it had become the new, I don't know, the new casual talk. Like, oh, yeah, what did you do with your car? And how is this new thing? And oh, you still using this old thing? It was just so mainstream. That was very well, that was when things started to really feel good, yeah? Yeah, I thought that was it. So, and you, next, Kins, what do you remember of the tipping point?
Yeah, what happened then? And maybe think about, some specific things that you witnessed that just blew your mind. Maybe you didn't think were possible before. So you can open your eyes again, and we're going to be going back into breakouts. And this time you'll have 12 minutes. So even a Yeah, welcome back. Back to 2050, and we're coming to the end of our journey into the future here. But our hosts had one last question for us. That now that we've arrived here with them in this regenerative future, uh, they wanted to know, what are we grateful for? Um, and my response is that I'm so glad that we were finally able to turn things around before it was too late. That we live on an amazing planet compared to all the other planets that we know about. Earth is a paradise. and provides us with everything that we could possibly need, as long as we take care of it and take care of each other. And would be a shame to have thrown all of that away, just because we couldn't figure out how to live together. So, yeah, in that spirit of appreciation, what are you grateful about having arrived here in 2050, Kenora?
Thank you, Kindon. Well, today in 2050, I'm so glad that we trusted one another, that we came to this point because I think we believed, despite all the signs, despite the unraveling and everything, we did took that turn. We did rethink all this fabric, this social fabric. And yeah, I'm mostly grateful for all these friends that I had and the collaborators, like the people we worked together towards this goal. And they are not necessarily the one I had project with. They are my neighbors. They are people I met when I was traveling on the road. They are far, far kins that I might never have really crossed, but I know they did trust, and they did send out this love. I think, yeah, this is, yeah, and I'm grateful that now we are regenerating our environment, more green everywhere, more events. I love all these events, these parties, these free natural parties that we have that are just so, that's being alive. So yeah, I'm grateful for this generation, I think. Yeah. And you, next kins, what are you grateful for in 2050 today?
We'll be returning to the breakouts one more time to talk about what we're grateful for, having made this long journey that may have seemed very unlikely at the beginning, but now we know, and now we're here. Yeah, welcome back, everyone. We've been on a long journey, and we're coming to the end of our future visioning portion of this process. So just invite you to take some more deep breaths, maybe shake it up a bit, just let go of anything that's hanging on, any kind of tension or preoccupation, any mental busyness, and maybe celebrate a little as we're coming to the end of phase 2.
Yeah, congratulations, everybody. You've reached that point and you've actually had beautiful traveling. I was listening a bit to all your visionings, to your memories, and I think we have some precious things. So yeah, congratulations, everybody. Phase 2 complete. So now is actually the time for seed collection. So you now, to actually make this whole system and, rebalance our society and have really chances to also help there is more to this protocol that we cannot tell you about. It is classified, but we certainly need you now to tell us more about what you get from this. Don, shall I let you introduce?